This presentation looks into the psychology and neuroscience of body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, through the lens of object relations theory, and see how dissociation and specific brain networks shape our experience of self and body image. My goal is to review psychodynamic insight with neuroscience to help us understand why body image disturbances feel so overwhelming and persistent. Body dysmorphic disorder is a mental health condition marked by an obsessive focus on perceived flaws in appearance. These are flaws that other people don't see or notice. People with BDD often spend hours checking mirrors, comparing themselves to others, or avoiding social situations. From a psychodynamic perspective, it's not about vanity, it's about self-image fragmentation, often rooted in early relational experiences that shape how we see ourselves and others. Modern neuroscience tells us that BDD involves differences in how the brain processes visual and emotional information. Imaging studies show unusual activity in frontostriatal circuits, which are involved in decision-making and habit formation, as well as altered connectivity between visual processing areas and emotional centers. One study even found weakened communication between dorsal and ventral visual networks, which are responsible for integrating what we see and how we feel about it. This may explain why individuals with BDD can intellectually know that their body looks fine, but it still feels or looks distorted. Object relations theory, emerging from psychoanalysis, focuses on our earliest relationships, often with caregivers, and how they shape our internal world. We all form internal objects, which are mental representations of ourselves and others, and when these representations are stable and integrated, we experience a cohesive sense of self. But when early relationships are inconsistent or rejecting, we may develop split or fragmented internal objects. This can leave someone vulnerable to unstable self-image and emotional dysregulation, and neuroscience has started to validate this. Early relational experiences shape brain development, especially in areas like the hippocampus and the medial prefrontal cortex, which are crucial for memory and self-representation. Our emotional schemas form through attachment and caregiving and become wired into brain circuits. This means the way we internalize relationships early in life can influence not just our psychology, but the neural networks underlying our sense of self. When we put these perspectives together, BDD may stem from fragmented internal self-object representation. Someone might hold both a perfect self and a flawed self without an integrated middle ground. The dissonance can become unbearable, leading to dissociative mechanisms, mental strategies of splitting off certain thoughts or feelings that temporarily relieve stress, but can also reinforce distorted body image. Dissociation is when parts of our mental or emotional experience feel disconnected, like being detached from reality, numb, or observing yourself from the outside. It often develops in response to overwhelming experiences, especially early in life. In body dysmorphia, dissociation might appear as moments of depersonalization, feeling that your body isn't really yours, and derealization, where your reflection feels unreal. Brain studies show that dissociation can involve disruptions in the default mode network, which normally helps us maintain a stable sense of self. The default mode network is like your brain's background noise. In some states of dissociation, certain brain regions, like the posterior medial prefrontal cortex, show very slow oscillations, suggesting a breakdown in integrated self-awareness. Other studies show unusual communication between hemispheres and less synchronized activity across brain networks. Dissociation is both a mental and neural process of unplugging parts of the self. Three key brain networks are relevant here. First, the default mode network, or DMN, which is active when we reflect on ourselves. Second, the salience network, which tags what's important, like perceived flaws. Third, the executive network, which helps control attention and beliefs. Regarding body dysmorphic disorder and the context of dissociation, these networks may not coordinate properly, leading to hyperfocus on appearance and inability to shift perspective and unstable feelings of the self. Early relational challenges can create fragmented internal object representations, and when life stress activates those old schemas, dissociative processes can emerge, disconnecting parts from our self-concept. This disconnection, combined with altered brain network communication, contributes to distorted perception and emotional distress. Focus on the body. For example, someone who grew up feeling constantly criticized for their appearance might internalize a harsh, critical object. As an adult, when looking in the mirror, they might not just see themselves, but unconsciously see themselves through that critical lens. This can trigger dissociative detachment, for example, having thoughts like, "That can't really be me, can it?" All the while, brain networks amplify the salience of the perceived flaw. The result is overwhelming distress and compulsive checking behaviors. Treatment may need to work on multiple levels. Psychodynamic therapy may help integrate split self-objects, reducing the internal conflict. Cognitive behavioral therapy can target the visual processing biases and distorted beliefs, provided it's alongside psychoeducation. On the neuroscience side, interventions like mindfulness and neuromodulation to restore balanced network activity. The future may involve integrated approaches, addressing both early relational wounds and brain network patterns. Future studies will probably explore how attachment-related schemas map onto the brain connectivity and how therapies can rewire these networks. And there's also a need for more research on how trauma and dissociation interact with the visual process processing. Overall, body dysmorphia is more than just fixation on your appearance. It reflects deep layers of relational history, emotional memory, dissociation, and altered brain connectivity. Early relational experiences shape self-perceptions and emotional patterns. These schemas link the self, others, and core beliefs. When these schemas are fragmented, they can negatively impact self-image and relationships. And CBT helps to identify these maladaptive schemas and update them to fit the here and now. Ultimately, integrating psychodynamic theory and neuroscience, treatments can better target both mind and brain.